Hi there, and welcome to the Daily Gardener, an almanac of garden history, literature, and small botanical joys. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is April 17th. T.S. Eliot once wrote, "April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, and stirring dull roots with spring rain." Memory and desire. That's spring in the garden, isn't it? We think back on last year's garden, or gardens from years ago, and we see something new, and it takes us right back to the lilacs of our childhood, or the scylla we walked on the way to a friend's house. Spring gives us a season that isn't fully formed yet. And in the waiting, our minds fill in the gap. Will it be pretty? Will it be as good as that one year when we shared the surplus with all our neighbors and friends? Will it finally be the garden we've been dreaming of? Time will tell. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day in 1662 that the English clergyman and botanist Adam Buddle was baptized. Adam lived at a time when botanists were chasing spectacle, new flowers, exotic color, and novelty from far away. But Adam's love settled on mosses and liverworts. He loved the low green life that carpeted stones and damp edges, plants that asked for almost nothing and returned quietly year after year. Adam became one of England's earliest experts on bryology, the study of mosses and their kin. Over his lifetime, Adam built a vast herbarium. It was not a single volume, but a life's accumulation. Pressed specimens arranged with astonishing care. Adam pressed not only plants, but he also pressed the bees, the beetles, and the butterflies he found on them. What he made was a record of relationship, not just an inventory. Adam never rushed his work into print. There was no publication deadline waiting, no audience to impress. What he created was personal, singular, and ultimately indispensable. Years later, Carl Linnaeus, the father of modern plant taxonomy, studied Adam's manuscripts and relied on them as an authoritative source. And Linnaeus did one more thing. He named a genus in Adam's honor, Buddleia, the butterfly bush. It was a plant Adam never saw in life, but one now loved by gardeners and pollinators alike. It's vigorous, generous, and famous for drawing butterflies close. Adam died in 1715 in Essex, England. He spent his life with moss. His name now lives on in gardens filled with wings. And it was on this day in 1790 that the American statesman Benjamin Franklin died in Philadelphia at the age of 84. Benjamin believed that ideas and seeds were meant to travel. While living abroad as a diplomat, he sent letters home filled with curiosity. And tucked inside those letters were plants. There was rhubarb, which he praised as excellent for tarts. There were soybeans, which he encountered in Europe and sent back to America for the first time. There were cabbages, experiments, and instructions. Many of these seeds went to John Bartram, America's first professional botanist, and founder of what is now Bartram's Garden in Philadelphia, the oldest surviving botanical garden in the United States. Benjamin believed agriculture was a public good, that tending land carefully was a way of caring for people you might never meet. Even near the end of his life, with his body slowing, Benjamin's mind still turned toward orchards, crop rotations, and improvement. Benjamin did not just help found a nation. He helped stock its gardens. In today's Unearthed Words, we hear an opening line from the Danish writer Isak Dinesen, born on this day in 1885 in Rungsted, Denmark. Isak opens Out of Africa with a line that has never loosened its hold. I had a farm in Africa at the foot of the Ngong Hills. Those hills rose above a coffee plantation in what is now Kenya, where Isak lived for years and shaped a life she would never fully recover from losing. When she was forced to leave and return to Denmark, Isak settled at her family estate, Rungstedlund, where she tended formal gardens near the house and deliberately protected the surrounding woods. Cultivation and wildness held side by side. Isak also left us this: the cure for anything is salt water, sweat, tears, or the sea. Isak lost the farm, and she came home and planted a garden. And I think she knew those were not two different things. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Animal Vegetable Miracle by Barbar Kingsolver. This book is part of Herbs and Kitchen Gardens Week here on The Daily Gardener, and that means all of this week's book recommendations are devoted to gardens that feed us, heal us, and bring what grows outside into the kitchen. Barbar Kingsolver is a novelist and essayist, and this book follows a year in which her family commits to eating what they can grow or source locally. Barbar begins with a question she hears often. Urban friends ask her how she can stand living, quote, so far from everything. Barbar wrote, when I hear this question, I'm usually looking out the window at a forest, a running creek, and a vegetable garden, thinking, define everything. This book is honest about effort, failure, and joy. And toward winter's end, Barbar makes another quiet vow. I vow each winter to try harder to live like a potato. That's food for thought. To rest when rest is given. To store energy. To trust the season. This is one of the best food and garden books ever written, and it belongs on every gardener's bookshelf. And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 2014 that the Colombian novelist Gabriel Garcia Marquez died in Mexico City. He was 87. His family and friends called him Gabo. Gabo was a Nobel Prize winner and the author of 100 Years of Solitude. And every morning when he sat down to write, there had to be a yellow rose on his desk. Not because he feared catastrophe, because the day didn't feel right without it. Yellow roses were Gabo's way of welcoming the work and beginning. In his novels, gardens are never passive. They overtake houses. They bloom in moments of love. They decay when something has gone wrong. After Gabo died, people filled the streets of his hometown with yellow flowers. It was a color he had trusted every morning for decades. A small habit that turned out to be one of the things people remembered most. As we close the show today, remember, spring is the only season that runs on hope. The garden isn't finished yet, and neither is the dream of it. That's not a flaw, it's a gift. The waiting, the wondering, the memory mixed with desire. That is spring doing exactly what it was meant to do. T.S. Eliot called April the cruelest month. But that's only if you forget that cruelty and longing are just desire with nowhere to go yet. The garden will get there. So will you. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.